Right, I had to pull up a wine for this one. Yes guys, we are of course back with another video. When I get passionate about a show or anything really, I like to talk about it a lot. And the show I want to talk about today is of course Squid Game. Now, I don't mean to fall into the sort of, what's the word for it, mainstream hopping on the bandwagon sort of stuff. But honestly, this TV show is a TV show which has really sort of captivated me, and I don't think I've binge watched a TV show. I can usually hold myself back, but I binge watched this whole show in less than a day, and holy shit, it was a journey, and I fucking loved it. Okay, it was amazing. Now, before we start, just a quick one. I will be including spoilers in this video. Maybe not for the first part, but just to be safe, if you don't want to know anything about Squid Game whatsoever, then I'd highly recommend not watching this. So just a quick one for those of you who don't know and you've decided to stick around for the video because you might not watch it or you just want to know what happens very briefly. I won't be going into too much detail about the cop in this. I mean, I've forgotten names already. I'm not very good at Korean names, but I'll get them up on the screen just so it makes things easier for you guys. But yeah, I won't go into detail about the backstory and the whole story of the cop. I just want to talk primarily about the thing that really captivated me, and that was the games. And honestly, it's probably one of the first series in a long time to actually make me cry. Like, physically make me cry. Tears running down my eyes, and you'll find out why in a little while. So like I said, for those of you who don't know, the series is basically a group of adults, about 456 people, I think the main protagonist in it, like I say, I'll get names, he's the 456th participant, and it's basically 456 people fighting to survive by playing kids games, and they're surviving because basically they're surviving and they're earning money. They need money. They're all people who have been through hard times and they've come to these so-called Squid Games to hopefully become the last person standing in a 1 in 456 chance of winning. I think it's like 45.6 billion won, or won. Well, that's the currency in Korea. So yeah, as you know, the concept of this whole thing is already something where you look at it and think, you know what, that's something different that I've never heard of before. And it took me a long while to understand what people were raving about, and it took me probably a couple of weeks to even watch the first episode. I mean, it came out on the 21st of September, I think, and I only started watching it on Saturday, this Saturday just gone, so 8th, I think, I started watching it. So yeah, it took me 2 weeks to actually watch it after everybody had been raving about it for that amount of time. So like I said, I don't actually want to go really into the story, you know, all the plot and all that kind of stuff. I primarily want to talk about the part that really got me, which is the games and the characters interacting with each other and the character development through it. It was honestly all amazing, and I could spend all day talking about it. So yeah, episode 1 was basically red light, green light. Now if you played red light, green light, it's basically a game where you all line up at the back of, I don't know, a hall or a field, and somebody's at the other end, facing the other way, and they say green light, and turn around and say red light. And if they say red light and you don't stop moving towards them, you're basically out. But in this case, you basically die. So the best thing about it, the part that really strikes you and strikes all the other characters, is that at the start of this game, there's 2 lads who are talking to each other and say, yeah, I'll bet you this amount of money or something like that I can beat you to the other end. And they decide to make it into a race. But the first guy is running so quick that he doesn't stop on time, and he ends up getting shot And this leads to all 400, or most of the 456 people going absolutely batshit crazy and running towards the door trying to get out. And at the top you've got all the guards, and if you've not seen the guards dressed in the pink tracksuits with the circle, the triangle or the square mask, I'd say go look them up because the outfit's pretty cool. So yeah, you've got this bunch of people running towards the door getting shot, and you just think, fucking hell, imagine if that was a real life situation. Damn. And from that point on, I was hooked. I just thought, wow, this thing is amazing. So yeah, the main basis of that is you've got this main guy who you follow at the start, and he goes in and he meets with other competitors, makes a little team in like episode 2 or 3 or something like that. I mean, the group sort of starts to expand a little bit as time goes on, you know, especially in the tug of war episode, which I think is episode 4. I think it's episode 4, I don't know. Like I say, I'm going through them. I've seen it once, so a lot of this I'm just going by memory. Yeah, from that first episode I just thought it was like a Korean Hunger Games, you know, a very cleverly done Korean Hunger Games, where you play kids games to survive. So what we're talking about, I guess, what would I have done in that situation? Well, as you know, and this is a huge spoiler, I'm going straight into the huge spoilers. The old man, Il-nam, I think his name was, is obviously, at the end, the developer of these games. He was the main game creator, and he joins in, and I'm just saying this now because it'll make sense a lot long down the line. Does that make sense? Probably not. I'm too excited to talk about this, you can tell. Obviously he's the creator, so he wants to join in these games because he's dying from a brain tumour, and he obviously knows how the games work and knows how to get through them safely, as well as some other little cheaty parts which I'll probably mention a bit later on. So what this old man does is, when he's listening to the sound that this girl makes at the other end, there's a big robot girl, he knows the sort of the tune and the way she says it, so it enables him to walk quickly, jump, and then stop as soon as she says it, which means he doesn't get shot. I mean, he wouldn't get shot anyway because the pink men wouldn't allow that. They wouldn't shoot their own boss. So you had 5 minutes on the clock, I think, to get from one end to the other end. Now, I probably wouldn't have run it, because running, you'd have been way too quick to slow down, as you saw from the first guy who decided to run in, betting against his mate, thinking he wouldn't get caught, but that bot managed to catch them, so just the slightest movement and you were dead. That's it, you were gone. There's no 45.6 billion won prize for you. So yeah, I probably would have gone into that and I would have walked it, but I wouldn't have jumped at the end like the old man did, and it was a very clever tactic that he did. Also, they mentioned that hiding behind people also worked, because the sensor only worked looking down from one sort of angle, and you couldn't see behind the other people. So I wouldn't have thought of that myself, to be honest. When the shooting started, I probably wouldn't have run away, because obviously you've seen, if you move, you get shot. So obviously all these people who saw this guy get shot decided, oh, let's go run towards the door. Obviously it was locked. So in episode 2, you didn't actually see a game, you just saw the remainder of the first game and the result from the first game. But in the second game, it was like the ending of the start, I guess. Because episode 2 was where basically everybody voted to say yes or no that they wanted to stay in these games. Now, as everybody was sort of situated in this huge hall, in this episode there was basically this sort of big thing with a yes and no button on. There was a green circle to continue or something, and there was a red X to say stop the game. So everybody went, and the final vote was down to the old man. But knowing what I know now from the final episode, where it was revealed that he was the main creator, the scores were tied at like 100 each, and the old man came up last, and he voted no to stop playing, which I find weird now because he said in the end, obviously these are all major spoilers still, that he wanted to just live his life and have a go at the games because he was dying and it didn't matter anyway. But obviously there's about 6 people now at this point. There's the old man. I'm not going to name the names because I even get confused myself. There's the main guy you start off with, the old man. There's that really badass girl who's also a model in real life. There's that mafia looking guy with the tattoo on his face. There's the best friend of the main guy who's set up a company and he's basically down on his luck, his company's gone to shit and all that kind of stuff. And there is also Ali, who was actually one of my favourite characters from the first episode, right until the good old episode 6, because he basically grabbed the main guy in the first episode and stopped him from falling, which I thought was pretty nice. I thought, wow, this guy's a badass. So yeah, there was no game in the second episode, but it sort of gave you a little bit of a background about the characters, which I really liked. So you knew exactly what they were going through, you know. Obviously your main man, he's divorced, he's got no job, he's just down on his luck basically. He's going through hell, his mum's market's not picking up, they're just having a bad time in general. And then obviously you've got his best friend who he's got a company, but the company's gone to shit, he's completely bankrupt, he's getting loans and all that shite. And then you've got obviously the old man who's dying from a brain tumour, just wants to live his life. Also the owner, also probably very rich. And you've got the mafia guy who is basically been targeted. I call him the mafia guy because that's the only thing I can think to call him. Korean mafia, whatever. And he's basically been targeted by guys, he's killing people, and then he sort of jumps into the water off a bridge because he's been chased by a ton of mafia. And he just decides the only way out is going for these games. Obviously, the badass lady, she almost slits this guy's throat over some money. And Ali, he's not been paid by his boss is fucking him over, and he needs money for his kids and his kid and his wife. So yeah, episode 2, a nice little look into the main characters of the games. Also at that point, depending on my luck, I don't know whether I would have voted yes or no. If I wasn't too down on my luck, I would have voted no. But if I didn't have any money whatsoever and I needed some money, I'd vote yes, because what is there left to lose? And that's probably exactly what these characters were thinking when they decided to go back into the games, basically. It also tells you like the majority of players actually returned when they cancelled the games. I think there were like 40 players or something who didn't return back to the games in episode 3. But obviously the main people did, and about 100 others did. So they've got a bit of a successful game on the hands to come. So episode 3 was the sugar honeycomb game, let's call it. I had to look this up. The honeycomb cookie, let's call it, was called Dalgona. I mean, I'll just refer to it as a honeycomb cookie because it's just easier, and I don't want to do a ton of research right now. I'd rather just talk about it straight from the heart. I didn't really plan any of this. Anyway, episode 3. So at this point, I was told by numerous people to choose what I was going to do from this point on. So throughout the next few episodes, I was basically thinking, right, what would I do at this point? What would I do? So in this one, I actually picked the star, which was probably one of the worst options aside the umbrella. Now, to pass this one, I had no idea what I'm going to do. At first, myself, I thought about eating around the star area, but then I realised as I was watching, if you accidentally break the figure, you get killed. Now, as I'm not the best eater in the world, which sounds really weird, I would probably have broken that star on like the third bite in. So I thought, yeah, I won't be doing that. I'll do a different tactic. So I sort of watched it for a little bit longer, and because I don't know the laws of honeycomb, so when the main guy got some of his sweat on the honeycomb, it started melting, and you could see that there was an outline around the umbrella because the main guy picked the umbrella stupidly enough. Of course, the protagonist is going to get the worst one, obviously. That's how TV shows work sometimes. So he started sort of, I don't know, dripping on it and licking it and all that kind of stuff. And everybody else copied him. And even the old man started licking the biscuit. And that seemed like a trick that the old man didn't know, because when he was looking at him he thought, oh, right, so that's what we do with those honeycomb biscuits. You also had that woman under the slide using a lighter to burn it and stuff like that, you know. Basically she burnt the tip of the needle and she drew around the figure, and of course it melted the honeycomb because, well, fire and heat. So she melted it, got it out easily, and our main man started doing all that, and I've seen quite a few memes of that, like a drawing of a vagina on a honeycomb. That was an interesting meme, but we won't ruin it. We'll keep to the show. I mean, I really need to learn these names. I'm just terrible at all the names. If you've seen it, you guys know what I mean. I hope. It's not exactly an explanation video. I'm not here to explain it all. I'm just sort of giving my views on the game and what I would have done, to be honest, because explaining everything would be just too long. See, I think in the end for that one, I probably would have broken the biscuit and died, let's be honest. Unless I would have caught on to what everybody was looking at and given the cookie a bit of a lick. I'm never saying that again. Jesus. We'll move on to episode 4. Tug of War. Yes. I'd also be terrible at this one. I'm not exactly the buffest of men. However, the old man did have some wise words, and he said that when he was younger, the way they'd do it is they'd lean back and they'd let the other team exhaust themselves for a few seconds, and they'd sort of lean back, you know, take the strength on and pull back, because if you do that, then the other team, they're not able to pull you forward, and then as soon as the other team sort of slip or trip or there's a moment of weakness, you just start all pulling together. And you also have to be on different sides, so one of you on the left, one on the right, left, you know, as you go down the line. And I found this a very clever tactic, the fact that tug of war isn't actually about strength, because to me tug of war has always been about a game like who's got the buffest team, you know, a team of athletes against a team of skinny men like me. You just sort of figure, well, the athletes are going to win this one. It was probably also one of the tensest episodes, apart from episode 6, because in this episode there's also a moment where there's this sort of extra game where the lights all go out and the people start fighting for about 5 minutes. It's a really cool scene, but people also die in this little mini game, I guess we can call it. But yeah, the tug of war scene was a bit tense. You know, imagine you're on top of this level and you're playing a game of tug of war, and the last thing you see is this bloody knife going down into a rope and cutting you off, and you're falling to your death. Wow, that's very scary, very horrible, very gruesome. Obviously this game has them get into groups of, I think it's about 10 people, and their team is very weak. So you've got like the old man there, you've got the main guy, you've got a couple of older people there, and a couple of women as well. And you sort of think, before this old man says anything, you sort of think, okay, how are they going to win this one? Because it's impossible. You think it's impossible, you know. You've got a group of really fit, muscly people on the other team, and then on your other team, on your team, you've got like an old man and then some other older men. But yeah, you just think, wow, how are they going to win this one? And it's really shocking. And the tactic works, and they basically end up yeeting this whole team of athlete-looking men onto the floor below, and it's like, nice. Next time I win a tug of war, I'm going by myself against a group of 5 athletic men. Buzzing. So episode 5, there wasn't an actual game in this one. It was just the rest of the tug of war game that happened, and the main thing was all about the backstories of the characters when they set up fort for the night. Because of what happened the night before, they expected the mafia man with the tattoo on his face to come and attack them in the night, but they never did. They decided to take a break, but they still basically took a position where they felt safe. Sorry. So because nothing massively interesting, well, no games happen in episode 5, I'm going to talk about the hardest episode of the series, and that's episode 6. Now, as soon as I mention episode 6, some of you guys might think, God, here we go. And this was easily one of the saddest episodes of a TV show or movie that I have ever watched. And I cried. I genuinely cried. It was sad, and it's sad to think about even now. Like that whole episode is just stuck in my head. It's mad, it's crazy, it really is. So, episode 6 was marbles. You could basically choose to play any marble game you wanted, and at the start you had to pick who you wanted to basically be in a team with. Now, I initially thought, before this game started, I actually said to myself, yes, because of what had happened in the other games, and because it managed to trick you so well. For example, the shape game, you know, you pick the umbrella, you're absolutely fucked. You pick somebody you like, you're absolutely fucked. I actually thought to myself, right, I'd pick somebody that I don't know, because it's more than likely that they're going to die. So I think I was right in my first sort of thought on this being, yeah, pick somebody you don't know. So at one point the protagonist, the main guy, he actually goes to this doctor, and this doctor basically begs him to be with him, and he ends up refusing and going to the old man and holding out his hand and saying, do you want to be my partner? So he's partnered with old man, Ilsan, whatever his name is, Il whatever, fuck knows. Ali gets partnered with protagonist's best mate, and badass girl gets partnered with this other lass who comes in. She looks like a bit of a younger lass, and she comes in. I think they're a real life couple actually. I think I read that yesterday. Don't count me on it, but I think they are. But she gets partnered with her, and it all just goes to shit, basically. It just all goes wrong, and it's a sad episode, it really is. So what happens is everybody's playing marbles. It's very long, very drawn out. It's a good 45 minutes or half an hour, 45 minutes until somebody somebody dies, and it's a very emotional episode. So what happens is badass girl's girlfriend or friend dies. She throws a marble, God I can't speak. She throws a marble in a way in which it doesn't even hit the wall. She just throws it down on the ground and ends up basically killing herself. She gets shot in the head, and that's the last you see of her. Ali gets betrayed by protagonist's best mate. Also very sad, because Ali was a fantastic character. He really was. I loved his character and his backstory. The fact that he was trying to provide for his wife and kids, I think was amazing. But yeah, he gets betrayed because protagonist's best friend steals his marbles. Ali doesn't notice it until he's gone through that door into the next round, and he opens up his sack of marbles and pours them onto his hand, and it's just all stones. So he gets shot, apparently. You don't see it, actually. You don't see it on screen, but I'm pretty sure he gets shot. So then you of course have the scene with the old man, and unfortunately the old man gets dementia, or he has dementia. Obviously not at the end. At the end it all comes clear what's going on. Our main man basically tricks the old man into getting rid of his marbles in a game of odd and even, and the old man gets shot. Obviously at this point in episode 6 I had no idea what actually happened or what was going to happen, so I was sat there blubbing like a baby, as you do, thinking, wow, he's really just tricked this old man with dementia and got him killed. And honestly, heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. Well, luckily I watched it all in a day, so yeah, I knew what had happened by the next 3 hours of the day, so I was cool by then. I mean, the last bit was still sad, don't get me wrong, it was still sad to see the old man die. But yeah, obviously, like I said, in this game, I'd have definitely chosen somebody that I didn't know, because I knew that shit may go down. Episode 7, The Glass Bridge, of course. Now, I actually chose for this one, I chose bib number 13, which would have got me killed if you were going to go by the last 3 players that survived, who had 16 bibs, 16 players. I went for 13, so I would have basically been that man who worked in a glass factory, but unfortunately I got pushed by protagonist's best friend, and yeah, died on that round, which was shit. So this one was of course more about sheer luck. Basically there was a bridge with 18 tiles of glass along it, and there were 16 people, and you had to get to the other side of the bridge without falling through the glass. Now the chances are that at least a couple of people, as we saw, would manage to get across the bridge and survive. So choosing number 13, I think there was a huge chance for myself that I would have got across that bridge and to the other end and survived to go to the final round. I'm just kidding, I probably would have died in the first game, let's be honest. This one was sort of like a live show for a group of VIP guests as well, so you saw these VIPs in golden animal masks, and they came in and they watched the game as it happened with little binoculars as well. So overall for this episode, this was all about just pure luck. It wasn't about, unless you worked in a glass factory, it wasn't about knowing what you were going to do and having a tactic for that moment. It was about just pure luck. If you were number 1, you'd have no chance. But if you were number 16, you'd most likely get over that bridge, even if it meant watching people die in front of you, getting pushed by the person behind them. I mean, I wouldn't do any of that pushing. It's not nice. It's bullying, is that? So episode 8 is where it all gets a bit tense and the games are coming to an end. Now episode 8 was I think it was the episode, let me just check real quick. Okay, yeah, so this one was basically a mini challenge. So each of the competitors got a proper meal, like a steak meal, and at the end of the meal, the men in the pink, they left the steak knives on the table and the competitors took them, but this resulted unfortunately in Badass Girl getting her throat slit. Now she was already dying from blood loss because in the last game which I just mentioned, in the bridge of glass, she actually got a wedge of glass stuck in her torso because the bridge blew up after the game and the glass started hitting them. So she was already severely injured, unfortunately. So I just thought at that point there's no way she's going to survive that. So this was a little bit of a game of who would backstab who. Now, would I have taken the steak knife? Of course. Would I have slept in the same warehouse as the other two competitors I was with? Probably not. What I would have done is I would have set shop up in the bathroom. I would have gone into one of those cubicles and just slept there for the night. Obviously steak knife on one side of me and maybe a pillow. I mean, it can't have been too cold in there, right? I would have certainly strayed away from staying in that huge open warehouse where you were open to any sort of threat from either side. So let's say you were being attacked by both of these people. They could come in at either side, they could come around you and you'd have nowhere to go. Now, I'm not saying in the bathroom you'd be completely safe, but you'd have more time to prepare and it probably wouldn't be dark. I'm not sure, you never really saw the bathroom at night. I mean, if it was dark, then I don't know. I'm thinking the bathroom, I think you had to go through. That's it. The bathroom, I've just remembered. Massive twist here. I wouldn't use the bathroom because the guys had to run you through to the bathroom. The bathroom wasn't just there for you to use as you please. You had to ask to use the bathroom, if I remember rightly. So yeah, screw that plan. I'll set up a corner and lie there for the rest of the night. Steak knife in hand, you know. And we of course have the final episode of season 1 where it all ends for now. So obviously in this game you have to play the actual Squid Game. So in the Squid Game, I believe, if I remember rightly, like I say, I'm memorising all of this, you had to hop on one foot to like a triangle at the other end of the squid and your opponent had to try and catch you. But in the Squid Games you could win in any way for this one, so it didn't matter how you win. You could beat them up, you could kill them, you could play the game properly, like a wholesome person. But unfortunately, they have a big fight. Protagonist's best friend slits his own throat, enabling our guy to win 46.5 million won. So, what would I have done in that situation? Well, I'm not much of a fighter, as you can see, you know, and yeah, what I would have done is I have no idea. I honestly have no idea what I would have done at that point. It would have depended on the opponent. If the opponent wanted to play fairly, fair enough. If he wanted to play a fair game, fair enough, yeah, I'd be open to that. And if you lost, you get shot in the head, you just get killed. It's just a bit better than fighting, so I probably would have tried to play the game as fair as I can. But obviously, in this episode, they didn't play it fairly, they just sort of beat each other up and tried to kill each other with steak knives. So there's that. Now obviously I've not gone into too much detail on the plot and the story, I just wanted to talk about the games, because going into the whole plot and the story and the cop as well, There's also another story to do with a cop trying to find his missing brother, and he's sneaking about, and that's a completely different story in itself. And I think talking about even each and every individual story would have just taken me way too long. The plot altogether for these 9 episodes, fantastic. It's one of the best series that I've ever watched, and I just had to come here today, sit down and just pour my heart out to it because it was that brilliant, honestly. I completely understand that this hasn't probably been the most interesting, fact-worthy sort of video, but it was just something that made me really happy to watch. I mean, I'll probably go into detail on the plot another time. I mean, the cop's story is really interesting, and yeah, I'd like to explain more about it and maybe give some theories of the predictions of the deaths and whatnot. And yeah, but for now I just wanted to talk about the games themselves, and you know, how I'd get around them, how they got around them, and basically what the main thing was to do with these games, what the whole point of them was. But overall, guys, this is just a series that I cannot stop talking about to many people. It's absolutely fantastic, and honestly, you've got to applaud the creator and the director of this. It was absolutely fantastic, and I know I've spent about 40 minutes talking about this just alone. 9 episodes talking about Jesus. Yeah, amazing. I'm looking forward to the season 2 if there is one, and I'll be sat here waiting for it, looking at Netflix every day waiting for a release date or something like that. But yeah, guys, that's the Squid Game games, I guess. Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this. You know, if you've never seen the Squid Games, hopefully you understand a little bit about what the main story is about and what happens. I mean, I haven't given any names, so if you do want to watch it, there's the names to learn as well. So yeah, you know what I mean. And obviously I didn't give away the other plot going on with the cop and his brother. So yeah, there's still things to watch. Obviously I've given away the massive spoiler at the end, good old Ilnam. But yeah, guys, I'm going to stop talking about it now because I'm going to have to go and watch it again. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, maybe click that little bell next to the subscribe button. You'd be doing me a favour, you'd be doing yourselves a favour. You'll get my latest updates, which would be pretty cool, I think. Who knows? Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.